Okey, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera kepada semua pelajar-pelajar yang dikasihi sekalian. Hari ini adalah 1 Mei 2021, hari Sabtu, merupakan hari buruh. Okey, tapi walaupun hari buruh, saya menyediakan program khas untuk pelajar-pelajar matrikulasi sekalian, iaitu program How to Score A in Managerial Accounting. Ini adalah persediaan untuk pelajar semua menghadapi peperiksaan PSPM untuk subjek perakaunan. Okey, jadi tanpa membuang masa, okey, kalau sesiapa nak komen, you want to give a comment, you can give a comment. Komen dekat bahagian chat kalau ada apa-apa nak tanya. So, tanpa membuang masa, saya menjemput saudara Irfan untuk bacakan doa. Silakan.
Al-Fatihah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirrabbilalamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma aftah alaina hikmataka wa syud alaina min hazaini rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Wa bishrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Ya Allah, terangkan hati kami untuk menuntut ilmu pada pagi ini. Ya Allah, Kau mudahkan kami untuk menguasai tajuk-tajuk yang diajar pada pagi ini. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina azabannar. Wa sallallahu ala sayidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. Walhamdulillahirabbil alamin.
Okey, sebelum saya mulakan ni, saya bacakan komen-komen daripada ni. Morning cikgu. Okey, morning Nina. Morning cikgu cantik. Yelah bodek ya. Okey. Morning Puan. Okey, morning. Ya. Hari ni santai-santai je. Okey, good morning cikgu. Okey Husna, good morning. Okey, morning cikgu Adriana. Morning. Okey, saya ambil 10 je, lepas tu kita mula ya. Good morning Syazlinda. Morning cikgu, morning. Okey, Aisyah Subah, morning Puan, morning. SW, morning SYSF. Good morning. Okey, good morning. Insyira, good morning, good morning. Okey, last one. Morning cikgu Irfan dan Nick. Oh, Muzakir. Alhamdulillah Muzakir ada kawan dia. Okey, itu saja. Yang lain tu kita baca kemudian ya. So, kita nak mulakan the class. So, make sure kelas ni bukan apa ya, dia hanyalah how to score A, bukan soalan-soalan bocor ya. Okey, now saya nak buka. Nanti korang berdua tengok. Irfan nampak this one?
Belum lagi Puan.
Belum je, kejap ya.
Mm-mm.
Share sini.
Puan, yang komen dekat YouTube tu belum hilang lagi.
Oh ya ke? Kejap ya. Oh ya lah, tak delete lagi, kejap. Dah lama tak live. Irfan dan ni kejap. Okey, okey kan?
Okey.
Ada dong slide tu. Tapi dalam bentuk
Ada.
belum, kejap. Saya nak tukar dalam bentuk PowerPoint jap. Okey, keluar dalam PowerPoint kan? Irfan, okey tak?
Okey.
Okey.
Tapi belum full screen lagi.
Ha?
Belum full
Belum
screen
apa?
lagi.
Oh, ya ke?
Ha.
Kejap ya. Sekejap. Sekejap. Sekejap ya. Belum full screen ya. Share screen. Okey, dah full screen dah Irfan.
Belum lagi.
Macam mana pula dia? Belum pula ya. Macam mana pula saya buat dulu? Kejap ya. Top screen. Full screen belum? Belum juga kan? Tak ada?
Belum lagi. Belum lagi.
Ada keluar tak? Tak keluar ya?
Tak keluar.
Sekejap. Share sepatutnya. Screen. Window. Open. Share. Keluar tak? Tak keluar juga ya?
Dah keluar tapi belum full screen lagi.
Lah. Okay. Sekejap saya tengok. Select show. Okey, sekali awak tengok ya. Saya buat lagi sekali ni. Apa benda pula hari ni tak boleh lah ni ya. Show screen, stop screen. Selalu tu boleh. Share screen. Share. Window. Kejap. Share. Stop. Keluar tak? Dia tak bergerak ya?
keluar tapi tak bergerak lagi.
Okeylah, kalau tak berat saya cuba yang lagi satu tidak ya. Yang lagi satu tu apa? Tak ada keluar ya. Tak apalah, saya on je lah ya. Saya teruskan dengan apa? Ya. Alternate. Alternate. Dia tak membesar juga ya? Besar tak Irfan?
Tak.
Okey, tak besar. Tak apalah, saya teruskan je lah. Okey, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Okey, hari ni sebenarnya dia boleh besar sepatutnya. Okey, I don't know what is the problem. Kejap ya, saya tengok slideshow, all time Google Meet, share window. Slideshow, alternate tab, Google Meet, share window. Nanti ya, saya buat sekali lagi. Sekejap ya. Saya cuba sekali ya. Alternate tab. Okey tak? Keluar tak?
Tak Wan. Sama je.
Sama je. Okey, kalau sama je saya teruskan je. Saya tengok dia punya tu. Ya, dulu sebelum ni okey. Saya kejap ya, saya set up yang lain pula. Itulah cabaran. Okey, set up. Slideshow. Set up. Slideshow. Go to browse by and browse by. Keluar tak Irfan?
Baru boleh.
Okey ya. Keluar besar kan? Alright. So dah besar kan? Saya kena guna plan B pula. Okey, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. So kita nak continue. Tu cabaran dia untuk ambil PSPM. Sebenarnya saya dah set dah tadi. Okey je. Tiba-tiba plan A tu tak dapat, saya buat plan B. Okay, this is the how to score A in managerial accounting. So you can see ini adalah revision for PSPM semester 2 AA 025. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 topic for this semester. So actually I just want to tell you how to maximum your mark and to minimum your mistake. So we will start. Okay, if you look at the question, topic 5, topic 7, normally they will combine in one question. Normally question 1A and 1B, topic A, process costing, normally one question, but depends on the situation. So I just go through dulu. Okay, this is topic 5. Topic 5, manufacturing overhead. You have the technique of answering the question. Number 1, we have to calculate predetermined overhead rate or POR. This is the first step that you have to calculate. Number 2, we have to calculate applied overhead. After calculate applied overhead, we must calculate over applied and under applied, and we have to prepare adjusted journal entry. This is the flow of calculating over and under applied overhead. Okay, now this is the techniques of answering the question. Okay, this question normally the student able to get full mark, but you have to be more careful, especially when you want to calculate POR or predetermined overhead. So when your calculation for predetermined overhead is correct and zoom tak ada pula. Okay, when you want to calculate predetermined overhead, make sure your answer, that one is the main point. Make sure your answer for POR is correct, because when the answer is correct, for your applied overhead also correct, and under or over applied, you should get correct answer, and the last one, journal entry. So this is one set, but that one is very dangerous if you calculate predetermined overhead is wrong. So if your answer for predetermined overhead is wrong, then your second step for applied overhead also wrong. The third one, under and over applied overhead, wrong. And the last one, journal entry, is wrong. So everything goes wrong. So make sure you calculate POR with the correct activity basis, because there are 5 bases. Make sure you choose the correct one based on the question. Okay, this one is the example 1. For 2020, Malim Enterprise budget manufacturing overhead cost. So this one is the budgeted manufacturing overhead. In the question, you have to identify budgeted manufacturing overhead and actual overhead, because for budgeted manufacturing overhead, you have to calculate POR or predetermined overhead. And for actual overhead, we have to calculate applied over or under applied overhead, and you have to compare to get over or under applied. Okay, this is the basis. Okay, in this question, there are 3 bases: direct labor, cost, and direct labor hours, and machine hours. And this is the budgeted. You are given the budgeted because we have to calculate the POR, predetermined overhead. And at the same time, the question will give you actual, because we have to calculate applied overhead. You must choose the correct activity basis. And you can see that the direct labor cost and direct labor hours, they are 2 different bases. So make sure you choose the correct one. So you are required to calculate predetermined overhead rate. Number 1, direct labor cost. Number 2, direct labor hours. So this you have to calculate based on the correct activity basis. And number 2, after you calculate POR, we have to calculate applied overhead. And if you choose the correct one, and normally for part B, you have the correct answer. C, calculate over applied and or under applied overhead for each basis. And the last one, prepare journal entry to show the adjustment entry of the overhead cost. Okay, look at the answer. If you are using direct labor cost, so your answer should be in the percentage. But if I just choose these 2 bases because some of the students, they they are confusing. Which one? Because they just see direct labor cost and direct labor hours. Sometimes they are not choosing the correct one, because direct labor cost in terms of percentage, and for direct labor hours in terms of hours. Okay, you can see the difference. And if you find out the percentage, normally we take 2 decimal point, and also for this one 2 decimal point. So this is POR, or predetermined overhead. And the second step, we have to calculate applied overhead. You can see how to calculate. We are using percentage, and for the second one, we are using the direct labor hours. So you must use 2 decimal point. Okay, this is applied overhead, and this amount we have to compare. Okay, when you want to compare, you must record for this item. Okay, number 1, applied overhead. Number 2, actual overhead. Number 3, you must write down either over applied or under applied. And the number 4, you have to write down the different amounts. So make sure these 4 item ataupun 4 point, actual, applied, the words over and under, and the amount. So you will get normally full mark if you have calculate correctly for your POR. And also for direct labor hours, you just compare and write down over or under applied and the different amount. So that one is the technique of answering the question. You can prepare the answer either in the table or you can write down in the formula, as long as you show all the working. Okay, this is the adjustment for journal entry. Okay, you just make sure that when the over apply, we have to deduct cost of goods sold. So credit cost of goods sold and debit manufacturing overhead. And make sure that this is the double entry system between manufacturing overhead and cost of goods sold. So normally, if you have done correctly for your POR, applied overhead, and your comparison, normally your answer for journal entry always correct. Okay, now look at topic 7. For topic 7, we still have to relate with topic 5. Okay, this is the technique of answering the question. Number 1, we have to calculate predetermined overhead. Number 2, we have to calculate applied overhead. 3, calculate over and under applied overhead. Number 4, calculate total cost for each job. Number 5, prepare related journal entry. Okay, related journal entry, that means you have to identify all the transaction normally from the question, and you have to prepare the table for each job. And we have to prepare adjustment journal entry for applied overhead. And you are able to prepare work in process inventory account. Okay, look at the question. Example 2 for job order costing. So from this question, the company, Jelita Company Limited, manufactured T-shirt according to customers' specification. The company used job order costing system, and the overhead is applied based on the machine hour. Okay, you look at this one, the machine hour. So given in the question, machine hour. So make sure you choose the correct activity basis. As at early of January 2020, there is no initial balance of accounts, work in process, and accounts of finished good. So you are given in the question. When you are given in the question, you must identify whether it is estimated or actual. So for this paragraph, it represents for estimated factory overhead. So it is given machine hours, direct labor hours, and manufacturing overhead costs. And you should know that we are using machine hours. So direct labor hours, we just ignore. And this is the data given in January 2020. Okay, when the question give you the date, this table will represent for actual cost. So this one represent for actual cost, actual direct material, direct labor hours, machine hours. So you are given there are 3 jobs, job 1, job 2, job 3. Normally we have to prepare the table for each job. So the actual manufacturing overhead costs that have been incurred throughout the January 2020 are 8,000. Okay, this one is actual manufacturing overhead cost. And at the end, all job has been complete. Okay, this one, job 1, job 2, job 3 has been complete and transferred to finished goods. Job 1 and job 2 have been sold. Okay, only job 1 and job 2 have been sold instantly in cash. So that means job 3 still in the manufacturing. So that one we call work in process balance carry forward under work in process inventory account. So the sales 60% from the cost or from the cost of goods sold. So the first step, okay, this one is the actual manufacturing overhead. The total for this actual manufacturing overhead is 8,000. So we have to record the journal entry. Okay, you see, we are required to record the journal entry. Okay, the first one, this is the first step. We have to calculate predetermined overhead rate for 2020. Number 2, we have to calculate applied overhead. Number 3, we have to prepare related journal entry to record transaction. Okay, for related journal entries, it means that we have to record for direct material, direct labor, overhead, applied overhead, actual overhead, finished good, cost of goods sold, and sale. So you have to identify the amount. Number 4, we have to calculate over applied, and the last one, adjustment entry. Okay, I will show you, because I'm not teaching you, I just want to show you how to maximum your marks and try to minimum your mistake. The first one you have to calculate. This one, you don't have any problem with direct material and direct labor, but for your applied overhead, you have to calculate based on the correct basis. So there is a working for applied overhead. You have to show the working. And after that, you will find that job 1, job 2 complete. Job 1, job 2 and job 3 completed. But job 1 and job 2 sold. So it means that there is the journal entry. Okay, for this total, it will relate to journal entry for direct material. This one total direct labor, applied overhead, and this one is the total for finished good because we have complete all the job. So this column, it will represent for the journal entry, and also for this one you have to show the working just now I have told you, and this one also represent for journal entry completed, and for job 1, job 2. Before we calculate sales, we have to record cost of goods sold, and then we have to record the sales for job 1 and job 2. So from this table, we can identify the journals involved or the relevant journal. Okay, for this one, for this part, I just told you, you have to calculate, okay? Okay, now, this is the journal entry. Okay, where do you get this amount? From the table. Okay, for this one, direct material cost, you must write down work in process inventory. Don't forget to write down the inventory. If you just write down work in process, that is not the correct item. The correct item that you have to record in the account is work in process inventory. And also for this one, don't make a mistake. Some of the students, they may write down direct materials inventory. That is not the correct account. The correct account is raw materials inventory. Okay, for this one, direct labor cost, we are not using direct labor cost in the account, but we are using salaries payable. So make sure you write down the correct terms. Work in process inventory, raw materials inventory, not direct materials. And this one, you should write down salaries payable, not direct labor cost. So you should write down the correct accounts. And for this one we are recording for applied manufacturing overhead. Okay, you can see that debit work in process inventory. So make sure you should not miss this word inventory. And this is the correct one. Manufacturing overhead 9,000. You should not write down applied, but we are recording manufacturing overhead. Okay, for number 4, this is the common mistake where the student copy or write down the item based on the question. For example, the first one, indirect material. So the correct account is raw materials inventory, not indirect materials inventory. Okay, number 2, salaries payable. In the question, it is given that salaries. Okay, we should not write down credit side salaries expenses because the double entry system is debit salaries expenses, credit salaries payable. But we have recorded salaries expenses in terms of manufacturing overhead. So in the credit side, normally we have to record the liabilities account. So debit manufacturing overhead or salaries expenses, credit salaries payable. And for this one, some of the students, they write down in the credit side depreciation. That is the wrong account. The correct account is accumulated depreciation because we debit depreciation expenses, but we have substitute with the term manufacturing overhead and credit accumulated depreciation. So make sure you are using the correct account, not depreciation. And the last one, given in the question, insurance. So you have to record for the journal entry debit insurance expenses, but we have record manufacturing overhead, credit prepaid insurance. So make sure you choose the correct account in order to maximum your mark and to minimum your mistake. Okay, this is the last, no, not the last one. This one we have to record finished good. That means we have to record all the job that had been completed. So there are 3 jobs. We have to total for the job based on the table. Whatever you want to do for your journal, you must refer to the table of job order costing. There are 3 jobs. So these 3 jobs complete already. So we have to add all these 3 jobs. And make sure you write down the correct account, finished goods, inventory. So make sure you write down inventory. This one represent for asset and credit, work in process inventory. This one also asset. This one increase, finished good increase, but work in process decrease because we just take out this inventory from manufacturing department. Okay, for the next one, record cost of goods sold. So from the question, we just know there are two jobs that had been sold. Before we prepare for sales, double entries for sale, you must record for cost of goods sold. This one we refer to the product cost. So the term for cost of goods sold equals to product cost for job 1 and job 2. We have to refer to the table. Okay, the last one. This one, you must show the working or you can refer to the table. But for sale, you have to calculate, show the working. Okay. Every time you want to give the ending answer, make sure you show the working. This is the backup when your ending answer is wrong or you have give the wrong ending answer, but your working is correct, then this one is the backup for you to maximum your marks. Okay, you have to calculate based on the question 160% from cost of goods sold or from product cost. Okay, after that, you just identify another journal entry. Before you prepare the journal entry for over or under applied, we have to compare actual overhead with applied overhead. And you must know, don't make a mistake because applied overhead represent for 3 jobs. Okay, so you can find out. So you must write down in full. Number 1, you compare actual overhead, you show the working. Number 2, you show the answer for applied overhead. Number 3, you must find out the different amount. And number 4, you must write down in the sentence over or under applied. So make sure you write down full 4 items from this question. Okay, for this one, because this one is over applied, we have to make an adjustment. Okay, how do you want to make an adjustment? We have to reduce cost of goods sold in the statement of income. So debit manufacturing overhead and credit cost of goods sold. Okay, should we record the narration? Yes, you have to record the narration to record adjustment for over applied overhead. Okay, the next one. Okay, I think this is the quite easy topic because we have to follow the flow or the step process costing, and it is very easy for you to get full mark if you follow the step. Okay, this is the technique of answering the question. Number 1, this is the first step. Compute the physical unit flow. So, as you know, there are 4 units for this step. Make sure you identify the 4 units in this step. Number 2, we have to compute equivalent units of production. Number 3, summarize total cost. How do you get that amount? Beginning cost plus current cost. Number 4, compute cost per equivalent unit. Number 5, compute cost of unit transferred out and cost of ending work in process. Okay, in other words, for cost of unit transferred, it is known as cost of completed. And sometimes you are writing cost of completed and transferred out. So there are 5 steps. You have to follow these 5 steps in order to get full mark. And sometimes students are required to prepare product cost report. So if the question asks you to prepare product cost report, then you have to prepare the report. But if the question not ask you to prepare product cost report, then you have to show the answer based on the question. Okay, remember, okay? You have to answer the question based on part A, part B, part C, part D, okay? And you should know how to record the journal entry. Okay, for this part, you can refer my YouTube because I have done this for product cost report. If you don't understand more detail, you can refer my YouTube, Cikgu Yati channel, and the title is Process Costing. Okay, I just want to show you how to minimum your mistake and maximum your marks. The first thing, the most important point, you have to record physical unit correctly. There are 4 units. Units beginning of work in process. Unit started equals to unit completed and transferred out plus unit ending. If you write down the correct unit and then your equivalent unit will correct because we are using unit complete for calculating equivalent unit, and for your cost per equivalent unit will get the correct answer, and also for your cost of unit transferred out or cost of completed you will get the correct answer because you are right, you are calculating correctly for your physical unit, and your cost of ending work in process also correct. But this one is very dangerous because if you make a mistake for your physical unit, for example, let's say that you are required to calculate unit completed, but you are calculate wrongly. And if your unit completed is wrong, then for your next step, equivalent unit also goes wrong because we are using unit completed in this part. And also for cost per equivalent unit also goes wrong. Cost of unit transferred out. In this part, we are using unit completed. And for this part, cost of ending work in process also goes wrong. So make sure you are calculating for your unit completed or ending work in process unit, you have should calculate correctly. Okay. But if you calculate correctly, then your answer from step 1, step 2, 3, 4, 5, then you will get correct answer for all the steps. Okay, this is very easy for you to get full mark because we have to compare units to account must equals to units accounted for, or units before processing equals to unit after processing. And you can find out that unit started represent for number 1 plus unit beginning represent for number 2 equals to 1000. So this is the easiest way for you to check your answer. And this amount must equals to unit transfer out number 3 plus unit ending work in process number 4. And this amount must equal because this one before processing, this one is after processing. Okay, this is one way for you to check your answer, whether balance or not, or equals or not. And for this one, another way for you to check your answer, you can check your answer cost to account or cost before processing or during processing equals to cost after processing, or we call cost accounted for. This one is past tense. Okay, this one is past tense and this one is future tense, not incurred yet, but will process. So beginning cost, number 1, plus current cost, number 2, equals to cost completed and transferred out, plus number 4. This one number 3 plus number 4 cost of ending work in process. Let's say that you are not sure whether you are get the correct answer. You can check your answer by comparing these two amounts. And sometimes your answer is quite different in a small amount because the different answer incurred because of the decimal point. So don't worry, you still get correct answer. But the most important thing, you can compare these two account before process and this one cost after process. Okay, look at number 4 or example 4. I just want to go through for number 4 to show that you are given the question. In the question, there are so many percentage. So you just ignore the percentage for beginning. We are looking at the ending one. Okay, you see that the data below available for processing department. So processing department, you must know which department. Department 1 or Department 2. So processing department is for Department 1. How do you know that this one is Department 1? Because we don't have transferred in unit or transferred in cost. Okay, from this question, this is the data given percentage. You just ignore because it is not related to the ending work in process. Okay, look at this one. Units started into the first step. You must identify 4 units in the question. So you can see units started into the production 800,000. Unit completed, not given in the question. So we have to calculate the unit completed. Okay, work in process 31st December 200,000 unit. So this one is given unit. So what is the answer for unit completed? You have to calculate. And one more thing, you must focus for this one. Direct materials added at the beginning of process. So it means that ending work in process or the ending the percentage for direct materials is 100% because we have added materials at the beginning of the process. So the ending or the percentage of ending work in process for direct material is 100%. So this one you have to calculate the unit completed. Okay, this one is the, okay, look at this one. Okay, this one, work in process. In the beginning, unit started, given. Just now I have told you, you have to identify 4 units. So this one is unit started. So you can add this together in order to calculate unit complete. So this one plus this one, you get one amount. And this one plus this one, you get the same amount from that part. Okay, you must identify 4 units from the question. Okay, this is from just now from the question, work in process, direct material and conversion cost. Okay, this one is the beginning cost and this is the ending cost. You must identify this amount because we want to calculate total cost. Okay, this is the common question. Common question for product cost. For process costing. The first one, you must identify physical unit flow. And if your answer for this part correct, and for the second, third, fourth, and fifth will also correct. So this is the common question. Equivalent unit of production, cost per equivalent unit, cost of units transferred out, cost of ending work in process. Okay, just now I just told you that you are required to calculate unit completed and transferred out. So we are using this formula where units to be accounted equals to unit accounted for. So you must write down in full. Okay, in full that means this represent for total for units to be accounted for, and this one represent for units accounted for. Make sure you write down the item correctly. This is before processing, and this one after processing. Okay, after you calculate for that part, we have to calculate equivalent units. Okay, make sure you are given in the question that direct materials added at the beginning process. So, the percentage for direct material is 100%. Because in the question, not given, but it just give you the sentence where direct materials added at the beginning of process. That one is the clue for you to show that is direct material is 100%. Yeah. Okay, you have to calculate this amount. Show the working. Every time when you want to calculate for ending work in process, you have to show the working for materials, and also you have to show the working for conversion cost. And this amount is very important for you to calculate product cost per unit. Okay, this is the third step. So make sure you write down your answer based on the step. You write down this item you should record in order. From step 2, we need that amount. Okay, this one is okay. Total cost given in the question, beginning and current cost. We need this amount, total cost, in order to calculate product cost per unit. Okay, this is the step 4. We have to calculate direct material cost per unit. We need this amount, cost divided by equivalent unit. So just now I've told you that if you calculate wrongly for your unit completed, your answer for this part also wrong. So make sure you write down or you calculate correctly for unit completed, because in the question unit completed is the missing figure. Okay, this one is for conversion cost, and we have to calculate for cost per equivalent unit. Every time when you want to prepare the answer, make sure you add these two amounts, unit material cost, or in other words, direct material cost per unit plus conversion cost per unit. You must show the answer for cost per equivalent unit. Make sure you show this format or this formula. This is the amount that we need to use for the next step. Okay, this is the step where you have to calculate cost completed and transferred out. Okay, we are using this amount that just now from step 4. So this step, we have to show the amount for the cost accounted for, or in other words, cost after processing. So, cost accounted for, the first one, cost completed, 525,000 plus. Okay, for this part, you must show the working. Even though you know the answer, because you are using the calculator, but you must be very careful, because sometimes you are using the wrong number in the calculator. So make sure you write down the working. And for this one, work in process, there are two items, materials and conversion cost. This amount relate to the ending work in process unit. So you have to show the working for direct material, conversion cost. So you got the amount, and this is the amount for cost of ending work in process. You must show the working, and you got this total. The total for cost accounted for. And this amount, 655,000, you can compare this amount with cost to be accounted for. That one, you just calculate beginning cost plus current cost should equals to this amount, 655,000. There is one way for you to check whether you make a mistake or not. And this amount should equal with cost before process and cost after process. Okay, now we look at topic 9, absorption costing and marginal costing. Okay, for this topic, it will take time or it will take a long time because normally you are required to prepare standard statement of income. Okay, before you before you answer the question, the most important thing you must know whether the question asks you actual costing or normal costing. So you have to read the question carefully. There is the difference between actual costing and normal costing. For actual costing, we are required to calculate actual direct material, direct labor, and actual overhead, and you get a product cost per unit. But for normal costing, we are using applied overhead or POR, predetermined overhead. Okay, when you are using actual costing, there are the techniques of answering the question. The first step, you must calculate product cost per unit under absorption costing and marginal costing. Number 2, you have to prepare statement income or comprehensive income statement. And number 3, reconciliation of net profit. You can check your answer. Is there any mistake? Because the difference between absorption costing and marginal costing is because of fixed overhead. Okay, this is the normal costing. And this is the technique of answering the question. Number 1, you have to calculate product cost per unit under absorption and marginal. And number 2, you have to compute applied overhead. Okay, this one we just apply for fixed overhead. You must calculate fixed overhead, predetermined overhead, and after that you have to calculate applied overhead to compare with actual overhead of fixed cost or fixed overhead only. Okay. The third step, prepare comprehensive income statement. And the last one, reconciliation of net profit. So from actual costing and normal costing, you can see that we have to, under normal costing, we have to calculate applied overhead. So there are 4 steps. But under actual costing, only 3 steps. Now I will show you example 5. Irfan and Nick, are you still with me?
Yes, Puan.
Okay.
Ya, Puan.
Okay, Syarik. Okay, kita tengok example 5 ya. Syarikat semegah practice normal costing system. Okay, bila disebut normal costing system, that means you must identify the estimated data and you must calculate POR or predetermined overhead for fixed overhead, and you also must calculate applied overhead. So the company's normal production is 24,000. Normal production, that means budgeted production. And this is the annual estimated manufacturing overhead. So from this question, you identify these two budgeted. Now, number 1, normal production, and also budgeted ataupun estimated manufacturing overhead. We need this data because we want to calculate predetermined overhead. Operational data for 2020. Okay, you can see this is the date given. So it represents for actual data. So before you calculate or you prepare statement of income, you must identify units for item. There are 4 units that you should identify. Beginning inventory. After that, you are given unit produced and you are given unit sold. So the amount or the missing figure is ending inventory. We need ending inventory because we want to record in the statement of income. So this the ending inventory is the missing figure. So you have to calculate. Okay, this one is direct material per unit, direct labor per unit, and variable overhead. You have to calculate variable overhead per unit. And given this one is actual fixed overhead, and we are not using actual overhead for calculating product cost per unit. We are using POR. And selling price per unit, we need this amount, this selling price to prepare statement of income. Variable selling and admin expenses per unit and fixed selling and admin expenses per unit. Okay, this is the common question for absorption costing and marginal costing. So you have to calculate. The first one, product cost per unit for 2 costing, absorption costing and marginal costing, and you have to calculate under or over applied for fixed overhead, and you have to prepare comprehensive income for absorption costing and marginal costing and reconciliation. Okay, we want to make a reconciliation because we want to compare net profit for absorption costing and marginal costing. Okay, the first step, you have to prepare product cost per unit under absorption costing. So under variable overhead, we are using actual variable overhead. Actual variable overhead 56,000 divided by 20,000, you will get the amount 2.80 or 2 ringgit and 80 cent. But for fixed manufacturing overhead, we are using POR or predetermined overhead. So we just refer to the question 240,000 estimated annual fixed overhead cost divided by estimated production unit, and you got the answer 10. So 42 ringgit and 80 cent represent for product cost per unit under absorption costing. But for marginal costing, it is very easy. You just take the actual one. So make sure you are calculating correctly for absorption costing under fixed overhead. Okay, this is the second step under or over applied. Just now we have calculate already. This one represent for fixed manufacturing overhead only. You just compare. Okay, when you want to compare this item, make sure you show the working. This one is applied overhead. Number one, you must have you must calculate applied overhead 200,000, and you have to write down actual overhead given in the question. Number 3, you must calculate the different amount. And number 4, you must write down either over applied or under applied. There are 4 items that you have to record when you want to calculate under or over applied. So over applied fixed manufacturing is 20,000. Okay, this one, as you know that over applied 20,000, we will reduce cost of goods sold 20,000 by recording credit cost of goods sold, and we have to record under statement of income. This one will reduce cost of goods sold in order to make it equal with actual overhead. Okay, this is the statement. Okay, for this topic or for this statement, you have to show all the working in order to get maximum marks, and make sure all the ending answer you have the working. Okay, number one, and you make sure for the title you must write down absorption costing. Don't forget to write down the title absorption costing. And 3 in 1, the date, the name of company, the statement, and the date. And don't forget to write down absorption costing. Okay, this is the working for sales. I just want to show that for applied overhead, it will reduce cost of goods sold. So we have to deduct the amount, and you get 20,000. And just now, we have to calculate ending inventory. In the question, ending inventory is not given. As you know, we have to identify 4 units in the question. So this is the formula to calculate ending inventory. Beginning inventory plus unit produced less units sold. So you will get the answer 4,000 units. This is the calculation. So you can show the calculation outside the table, outside the statement. But for this item, make sure you show all the working. This one represent product cost per unit, and this one for these 3 items, you just refer to the product cost per unit. Okay, this one you also show the working for variable selling and administrative, 170,000. So what is the formula? We are using sales unit, not the production unit. Variable selling and admin cost per unit times selling unit. So the answer is 170,000. So you got net profit for absorption costing. Now we compare with marginal costing. And again, you must write down the name of the company, the income statement, and make sure you write down marginal costing for the year ended. This 3 item ni kena ada, you have to record. And for all the working, all the answer, ending answer, you must show all the working. And you can see from cost of goods sold, we are using product cost per unit from marginal costing. And we are using only relevant cost for this part, or variable cost. Okay, you get the variable cost, and this statement is different from absorption costing because we got contribution margin. So make sure you are using the correct format for marginal costing. Okay, this is the answer, ending answer. You can see the formula for marginal costing is different from absorption costing because under marginal costing, we are calculate contribution margin, sales less variable cost, you got contribution margin, and less fixed cost. So this is the answer. And you can see that the different answer for net profit under absorption costing and net profit under marginal costing because of fixed overhead. So this is one way for you to check your answer, and it is very easy to get full mark. If you cannot get the answer by reconciliation, it means that there is something wrong with your product cost per unit or your statement of income. But you must check, double check for your product cost per unit, especially when you calculate fixed overhead, because we are using POR, predetermined overhead, because we are using normal costing. So for beginning inventory and ending inventory of fixed overhead, you must show the working. Okay. and this is ending answer. This one is your working. So for whatever answer, you must show the working in full. Okay, now topic 10, standard costing and variance analysis. Okay, before you prepare the answer for standard costing, make sure you should know how to prepare standard cost per unit or how to read the data for standard cost per unit. Okay, this one represent for standard cost per unit. This one represent for direct material cost per unit, direct labor cost per unit, variable overhead cost per unit, fixed overhead cost per unit, and then you got standard cost per unit. But that is not important for you, but we have to identify standard quantity per unit. It means that we are using 12 kg in order to produce 1 unit. And for 1 kg, it costs Rm 3 ringgit. So you must know how to read this data. Okay, for direct labor, it means that we need 2 hours for 1 unit. When you produce 1 unit, we need 2 hours of direct labor. And the rate for direct labor is Rm 40 ringgit per hour. Okay, this one represent for LIS. LIS maknanya per hour per kg. Okay, variable overhead. Okay, if you look at these 3 items, direct labor, variable overhead, and fixed overhead, we are using the same direct labor hours. But this one is different. This is standard rate. Okay, this one, it means that we are using 2 hours when you are producing for 1 unit, and the rate for variable overhead is Rm20 per hour. So that one we call standard hour per unit, and this one standard rate for variable overhead. And also for fixed overhead, you must know how to read the data. Standard hour per unit times for fixed overhead. Standard rate for fixed overhead. So this is the basic data that you should know when you want to prepare the standard cost or variance analysis. Okay, I give you one example. So you are given standard cost data for 1 unit. Okay, you must know how to read this one. This one represents direct material cost per unit, direct labor cost per unit, variable, fixed, and you got standard cost per unit. So the important thing that you have to calculate for, identify this item. So it means that we need 4 meter in order to produce 1 unit. So this one we call standard quantity per unit, and this one standard price. This one standard hour per unit, and this one standard rate. For this one, we know that direct labor, variable overhead, fixed overhead are using the same hours with direct labor hours. So 0.5 hour times, you have to find out the standard rate. 3 divided by 0.5, you got standard rate for variable hours. And no variable overhead, 1 ringgit divided by 0.5 hour, then you got the standard rate for fixed overhead. So make sure you know how to read the data in the question. Okay, estimated activity is 2,500 hours. Okay, normally we need these hours in order to calculate budgeted costs under fixed overhead variance. Okay, this is the actual data. Just now is the standard cost, and this is the actual data. Okay, I think this one is quite easy for you to identify. This one represent. Okay, For this question, direct material purchase is not equal to direct material use. So we have to use four formula. Nanti I will show you the answer. In this situation, when you want to calculate the price variance, we are using the quantity purchase. But when you want to calculate quantity variance, we are using the quantity use. Okay, this one actual direct labor cost. This one is given variable cost and fixed cost. I think this one you don't have any problem because this is actual data. You just substitute in the formula. Okay, this is the normal question. You are required to calculate price variance, quantity variance for direct material, labor, variable, fixed overhead. That is the common question. Okay, now look at the answer. We are using this formula when quantity purchased not equals to quantity usage. There are 4 box. This one represent for actual cost and this one is standard cost. We just substitute in the question. Okay, just now I just go through, not teaching already. I just want to share that you can check your answer. For example, actual price and standard price. Make sure the actual price and standard price, the variance is in a small gap or in a small range. And also, you can compare actual quantity usage, this one 23,500. You can compare with standard quantity and you can see this one 24,000. So there is a small variance between quantity usage and standard quantity. So that means you are writing in the correct answer. Same with this one, you can compare the standard price with actual price. You can calculate if you want to. But for this question, it is given the actual direct material cost. So again, for this part, when you want to write down the price variance, make sure you write down price variance 1 point, the amount 4,801 point, and don't forget to write down unfavorable. So there are 3 points, 3 tips or 3 points. The item, price variance, the amount, and unfavorable. Make sure you write down 3 in 1. Also for this part, the item, the amount, and don't forget to write down either favor or unfavor. Okay, for direct labor variance, you show the working. Okay, this one, I just want to show you that you can check your answer by comparing actual rate with standard rate. This one is $10, 10 ringgit. And you can compare with actual rate and the variance between standard rate and actual rate normally in a small variance. And also you can compare standard hour with actual hour. You can see that the actual hour, actually this one 2009 ni, the actual hour. Okay, actually this is the amount, bukan ringgit ni, amount dia ialah actual hours and this one is standard hours. So the amount between actual and standard hour is a small variance only. Okay, make sure you write down the item, the amount, and favor or unfavor. Same for this one. Okay, this is for variable overhead. You must show the working because we have to calculate standard rate. So the standard rate given just now, this one represent for variable cost per unit. Okay, we have to calculate standard rate divided by hours. So this one is standard rate per hour. Okay, you can compare the standard rate with the actual rate. You can find out the amount is a small variant, and also you can compare 2,900 hours with the standard hour. Okay, for standard hour, normally we are using the same amount for direct labor variant, variable overhead, and fixed overhead variance because we are using the same standard hour. Okay, for this fixed overhead, that is very easy because you just substitute the amount and you have to show the working for standard rate, and you can compare between standard rate, actual rate with the standard rate here, and you can compare the budgeted hours. No, this one is given, yeah? Hours actual, actual. Okay, this one is budgeted. Standard hour, standard hour. This one standard hour, we are referring to the direct labor hours just now. We have calculated standard hour. Okay, make sure you write down the term, budget variance, the amount, and favor or unfavor. And the next one, actually, okay, this one we are using the budgeted hour, okay? Okay, the last topic, application. You must identify the question, either make or buy. If you are given the question relate to make or buy, then we have to calculate the product cost. And from the alternative, there are two alternatives, make or buy. We must choose the lower cost. And the second one, calculate if the question give you accept or reject special order, we have to calculate net profit, and we must choose between the alternative the higher profit. Okay, this is format for make or buy. Okay, you can see make or buy. For this item, direct material, direct labor, variable overhead, normally relevant cost. But for fixed overhead, depends on the question. We just record for cost of making only relevant cost. And the buying one, you have to calculate and you have to compare and make sure you write down the different amount between cost of making and cost of buying. This one we call a differential analysis. We make an analysis between cost of making and cost of buying. Make sure you write down the decision making, lowest cost. We have to choose the lowest cost. So this is the format that you have to follow. Okay, you have to identify the relevant cost and irrelevant cost, prepare differential analysis, and from the question, if there is irrelevant cost, you must eliminate from the analysis, and you have to calculate only relevant cost. And the last one, you choose the lowest cost between alternative. Okay, this is the example. You can see the example. You are given the question. Okay, this one, direct material, direct labor, variable overhead. This is relevant cost. But for fixed overhead, you must read the question. Okay, for example, given the question, 10,000 of the fixed cost will be eliminated. So it means that 50,000 is irrelevant cost. You just ignore 50,000 in the analysis. Okay, Sharon, should parent company continue to make or buy? So we have to prepare the differential analysis, and you have to give a comment after preparing differential analysis. Okay, this is the example. Okay, I just want to show you that you must write down only relevant costs. Direct material, direct labor, variable overhead are relevant costs. But for fixed overhead, we just write down 10,000 only because it represents a variable cost. And another 50,000 is irrelevant cost. So you just ignore when preparing analysis. And make sure you write down the difference between cost of making and buying. And you can see the different amount is 25,000. So this total cost for cost of making represent for relevant cost only. When you compare, then you can make a comment. You must write down either should make or buy by choosing the lowest one. So this is the lowest one. And the second one, you must give the reason. So it will reduce cost. And the third one, you must give the different amount, 25,000, and you show the working. This is the working. So this is the comment that you have to write down in order to get full mark for your sentence. And this is the analysis. You must show the working in order to get full mark. Okay, the next one. Okay, this is the format for accept or reject special order. Sales less variable cost. Okay, for variable cost, we just consider relevant cost only. And you get contribution margin, less fixed cost, and net profit. And make sure you write down the comment, whether to accept or reject, based on the net profit. And we choose the highest net profit. Okay, this is the step or the technique of answering the question. Firstly, you must identify a relevant cost. So relevant cost refer to variable cost only, and irrelevant cost refer to fixed cost. And you have to prepare a differential analysis table. Just now I give you the format, and you must calculate sale less variable cost. You got contribution margin, and you less fixed cost. Then you got net profit. You must choose the highest profit. Okay, this is the question. Given direct material, direct labor, variable overheads is relevant cost. Fixed overhead is irrelevant cost. And this one, fixed sales and admin is irrelevant cost. So you are given, you are using only 80% capacity. So that means you have 20% idle capacity. Normally, when you have the idle capacity, we will accept the offer. And you have to compare the sales with the cost. Okay. Okay, you can see this company had received an offer from supplier with a special price RM13 when ordering 2,000 units of production. So you must look at whether you want to accept or order. You must look at the idle capacity. Idle capacity is the capacity that you still can accept the offer because it will not affect your normal production. So you still have the capacity 2,000 units. You compare, and this amount, the idle capacity, the company normally will accept the special order. But we have to calculate the sales and less variable cost in order to see whether sales is greater than variable cost. Okay, I will show you. This is the format. This column show reject order. That one we just produce the normal unit. When you accept the order, that means we have to produce another 2,000 units. So 8,000 plus 2,000 units. So the total is 10,000 units. And this is the working. Number one, represent for reject order. Number two, represent for accept order. And you have to compare. Make sure you compare the amount. And this is very important to see whether there is any increment in the profit, incremental profit. So when you compare, you must separate relevant cost and irrelevant cost. So this one represents for relevant cost, and This one represent for irrelevant cost, and you can look at the contribution margin. The amount is 6,000. So you can find out that accept order, the profit is greater than the reject order. So you must show all the working, show all the differences and the working for reject order and also the working for accept order. And decision making, the company should accept the special order because it will increase. So you must write down, accept the special order. What is the reason? The reason is it will increase the profit, and what is the different amount? So based on the differential analysis, the different amount is 6,000. So you must give the comment or sentence. I think that's all. Thanks for watching. Okay. Nasib baik. Nasib baik ada lagi Lee Min Ho Malaysia dengan Shahruhan Malaysia ada lagi. Kan? Ni nama glamour dia orang ni, Lee Min Ho Malaysia dan Shahruhan Malaysia kan. Okay, saya rasa tu saja. Saya tengok yang dia orang ni tak ada dah kan. Okay. Saya baca sampai mana saya baca tadi ya? Tadi sampai muzakir, saya bacalah sampai mana saya larat. Okay, ni dah baca tadi. Muzakir dah baca. Ni dah baca. Okay, ni dah baca. Ini pun dah baca. Okay, Insyirah dah baca. Saya rasa ni dah baca. Hadira. Ni kot. Okay, Hadira. Good morning semua. Okay, good morning. Adisha. Good morning. Okay, good morning. Ayuni. Good morning, Cikgu. Okay, good morning. Hilman Syukri Ahmed. Morning, Cikgu. Ni kawan Nik kot. Ya, kawan Nik ya. Okay, Nik. Good morning. Morning. Okay, Alexandria. Stormside. Okay, good morning, Cikgu. From College Matrikulasi Johor. Okay, good morning. Alexandria. Betul aku sebut. Alexandrite. Okay, Izihar. Hai, Cikgu. Hai. Jadi siapa nama naik tu? Untung ya siapa nama naik tu ya. Bukan semua orang dapat naik. Yang naik nama ni hanya, saya display nama ni hanya pelajar-pelajar yang bagi komen. Yang tak bagi komen tu tak adalah. Tapi tengoklah ya. Okay. Hi, morning Cikgu. Amirul Huzairi from KMJ. Okay, good morning. Yasmin. Selamat pagi Cikgu. Okay, selamat pagi. Adam Haris Khairil Walid. Good morning everyone. Okay, good morning. Amir Zarfan. Oh, Amir. Oh, A4P1. Okay, tu my ex-student ni sini kot. Yelah. Okay, good morning. Bukan ni A4P1 yang kelas ni ya. Morning, Madam Yati. Okay, this is a lecturer. Morning, Madam Aisyah. Selamat pagi, Cikgu. Imran, okay, selamat pagi. Morning, Intan Najwa. Okay, A4P2, good morning. Ini kuliah A4 ya. Anissa Fira, okay, A4P1. Okay, good morning, A4P1, kuliah A4. Irfan Taufik, salam from A4P1. Okay, saya balas balik salam kepada A4P1. Good morning, Madam. Okay, from A4P3. Okay, good morning, A4P3. Morning, Nurin Hashim, A4P1. Okay, good morning, A4P1. Nurin. Minish. Betul lah kot sebutan kan. Morning A4 P3. Wah, ini semuanya daripada kuliah A4 Baguslah kuliah A4 ni. Saya nak tepuk tangan je kan. Okay, good luck. Baguslah tu kan. Mungkin yang lain tu ada, mungkin dia orang malu kot Nur Syazlinda. Sampai mana tadi Masih lompat Dah terlompat. Okey, Hasanah. Okey, terima kasih Cikgu Yati. Terima kasih Cikgu. Terima kasih Linda. Terima kasih Cikgu. Okey, Anis. Terima kasih. Thank you Madam. Okey, hopefully dia akan guna kepada kamu Okey, saya rasa Hilman Syukri Hamid. Okey, terima kasih Madam. Okey, sama-sama. Thank you Madam Yati. Okey, sama-sama. Sepatutnya saya jawab sama-sama lah kan Okey, Anissa. Thank you Madam. Okey, saya berharap dia memberi manfaat kepada kamu semua. Dan saya doakan kamu semua yang hadir untuk saya punya kelas tu supaya kamu semua dapat A for your account. Amin. Saya tahu ada yang sebut amin kan. A for your account untuk semester 2 sesi 2020-2021. Dan saya ucapkan jika ada apa tersilap tadi kan, kesilapan teknikal, saya memohon maaf. Dan saya juga ingin mengucapkan selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri kepada semua pelajar-pelajar. Okey, saya nak ditutup ni Okey, Kina. Thank you Cikgu. Okey, thank you. Nindas. Adam Haris Hairul. Okey, amin. Okey, jadi saya harap semua dapat menjawab dapat membantu kamu. Okey, Madam Aisyah. Okey, amin. Jadi, dia dapat membantu kamu sekurang-kurangnya kamu tahu di mana kesilapan yang boleh dielakkan dan di mana markah-markah yang kamu perlu rekod. Tapi, saya cuma nak beritahu satu saja. Apa saja your question, make sure you show all the working. Semua pengiraan tu kamu kena tunjuk. Jangan tunjuk ending answer. Sebab kadang-kadang kamu tunjuk ending answer, tangan kamu tu gemuk sikit kan, tekan kalkulator. Kadang-kadang jawapan apa yang kamu fikir tak sama dengan apa yang kamu tulis. So make sure you show all the working. Kalau ending answer salah, kamu ada working. Itu penyelamat dah. Maknanya working dengan ending answer seiring dan sejalan. Okay. So setakat itu saja. Terima kasih kepada saya punya bodyguard. Bodyguard kan. Bodyguard iaitu Saudara Irfan. Saudara Irfan adalah ketua kuliah A6 dan Saudara Nick adalah ketua praktikum A6 P1. Ini kedua-dua ni student saya ni. Pandai diorang ni Okey, itu sajalah. Terpuji sekejap kan. Okey, kita tu je rasa kan. Jadi saya sudahi dengan menjemput Saudara Nick untuk membaca doa penutup.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa allazina amanu wa amilus solihat wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr.
Okey, amin. Jadi saya itu saja. Itu saja daripada saya. Bye semua. Kita jumpa lagi. Good luck semua. Mudah-mudahan semua berjalan lancar. Bye. Boleh lambai ni dengan Irfan.